Hey guys, so today I'm going to go over a free response that's helping us review linear regression. So this is from the 2011 exam number 5. So I'm just going to read the question. Windmills generate electricity by transferring energy from wind to a turbine. A study was conducted to examine the relationship between wind velocity in miles per hour and electricity production in amperes for one particular windmill. For the windmill, measurements were taken on 25 randomly selected days, and the computer output for the regression analysis for predicting electricity production based on wind velocity is given below. The regression model assumptions were checked and determined to be reasonable over the interval of wind speeds represented in the data, which were from 10 miles per hour to 40 miles per hour. Okay, so we see this little computer output. So this was one of the things we were going to kind of talk about when we did chapter 14 in our book, and unfortunately, we ended school early. So if you happen to see something like this on the AP test, this comes from like a computer output. How do you read all the stuff in here? Well, it's always going to say constant, and then it's always going to have whatever the x variable is. So this row that says constant, everything in this row is about the y-intercept. Okay, so this guy right here is my y-intercept, 0.137. Where it says wind velocity, everything in this row is about the slope. So this guy right here is the slope. All of this other stuff, for us, we can ignore, because this would be if you were going to do a linear regression test, which isn't a topic they're going to be having on the AP exam this year since we ended school early. So you get, this is the y-intercept, this is the slope, and then s, that's another one you can ignore because we didn't get to it. And then it gives you r squared. R squared adjusted, go ahead and ignore that. So it gives you r squared and not r. So if the problem asked you for r, you could just take the square root. So just if you happen to see one of these on the AP test, that's how you read it. And then part A says use the computer output above to determine the equation of the least squares regression line. Identify all variables used in the equation. So one thing that's important to remember when you're writing a regression equation is you put your little hat on your y. So remember, the hat means predicted. So the predicted y equals, and then this 0.24, that's the slope from the computer output, where it comes from the row that says the wind velocity, and then this 0.137 is the y-intercept. So that's my equation, and then I just need to define my variables. So I'm going to say x is the wind velocity, and y hat is the predicted electricity production. Okay, remember that's what that hat means, is predicted. So if they ask you to write an equation from a computer output, that's all you'd have to do. And then part B says how much more electricity would the windmill be expected to produce on a day when the wind velocity is 25 miles per hour than on a day when the wind velocity is 15 miles per hour. Show how you arrived at your answer. Okay, so for part B, we're talking about the wind is increasing by 10, right? It's going from 15 miles per hour to 20 miles per hour, 25 miles per hour rather. So if the wind is increasing by 10 miles per hour, and we know we are going to take whatever our wind velocity is and multiply by that slope of 0.24, we can just take our increase in wind, that 10 miles per hour, and multiply it by the slope. So we know that the electricity, or the predicted electricity, would go up by 2.4 amps. Okay. The other way you could do part B if you wanted to is you could, and some people prefer to do it this way, you could plug in 15 for x, and then you could plug in 25 for x and get the difference. But remember, this guy's going to wind up not mattering. It's really just how much you're changing the wind velocity by. So that would be another way. And then part C says, what proportion of the variation in electricity production is explained by its linear relationship with wind velocity? This is a must-know for the AP test. Write the proportion of variation in the y's that's explained by the LSRL, that's r squared. So if you know that, it's as simple as saying, I know that's r squared. I look up here, they give me r squared, and then just write it as a percentage. Okay, so it'd be 87.3%, and that's all you have to do for C. But that's a must-know for the AP test, like I said. And then part D is not going to be on the AP test this year since, we ended school early, so don't worry about solving part D. So, okay, thanks guys. Talk to you again soon.